here are 3 price targets that I have for ZBCN in 2025, even though nothing I say is financial advice. As to when exactly in 2025, I'm going to get a little bit as to when I believe it could approximately happen this year later on in the video. However, even besides that, my first price target for ZBCN is going to be 5 cents. Now, why do I think so? It's because I think that the Zebec network is very amazing, and let me explain why. Keep in mind, Zebec is a decentralized infrastructure network that is focused on real-world value flows. Now, you may be thinking, okay, real-world value flows, who cares about this? Well, let me explain why this is amazing, because if you take a look at one of the main focuses of Zebec is something called RWA payments. Now, RWA stands for real world asset. And this is amazing because if you take a look at this at its core, for instance, if you take a look at RWA tokenization, for example, these tokens are digital representations of physical assets on the blockchain. Now, why could this be amazing? It's because, for instance, these assets can range from real estate, commodities, to art, and even in some cases, financial instruments like bonds and stocks. So you got to think about why that is a massive deal for something like this, and also just in general when it comes to RWA tokens. However, even besides that, we take a look at Zebec, it's not all just for show though, because it actually has some real deal investors. Take into consideration how one of their amazing alleged investors is something like Solana Ventures. Now, Solana is one of the biggest things out there. We all know that, right? Very amazing. But also another investor that they have is something called Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. So you got to think about how, again, special Zebec is to have real deal investors like that. I think that really means something, and it showcases that this project is actually serious. They're not just fooling around and stuff like that, because if they weren't serious, that wouldn't be possible. You know what I mean? It's very hard for a project to not be serious and then achieve great things in terms of partnerships or investors, at least in my perspective. It doesn't guarantee they'll do well, but then I think that hypothetically, if they don't try hard, how can they get investors like that, in my opinion? However, also, we'll take a look at, for instance, it's even partners with JP Morgan, which is amazing. We all know that it's massive. Take a look at Bank of America, another, massive thing, right? Also, you take a look at Visa, MasterCard, and many others. I mean, man, this is very impressive in my opinion. And when you take a look at Zebec also, it's focused on giving individuals, businesses, investors, and teams faster and easier access to funds and tokens. Now, that's been stated. Now, this statement would kind of not mean much if there wasn't statistics to back it up, which there is, and I've conveniently noted them down. I'm going to mention this because we'll take a look at, for instance, right? There's currently around 50,000 monthly users. That's insane right there. That's, very impressive. Take also into consideration there's 250 payroll enterprise clients, and its payroll volume is $1 billion, around that. This is how impressive Zebec is. I get it. Again, it's not this, real deal, massive project that everyone knows about. That's not the case. But when you take a look at the investors, the partners, the statistics, it feels like a serious and amazing project. It hasn't been massive yet, which isn't necessarily a bad thing though, because in my opinion, I want to catch something before it really gains mass attention. However, if anything, I think this is, again, a big thumbs up. Now, let's not forget, right? Zebec is focused on the right markets, and it really does remind me of like a Ripple, aka XRP, or Stellar, aka XLM. The reason being is because Zebec by nature, I think, is primarily focused on 2 amazing markets. The first is, of course, the payments market, and also the global trade and finance market. Again, Stellar, you take a look at Ripple, they're pretty much focused on the same market. And the amazing thing about it is that this market actually has a lot of hypothetical potential. The payments market is currently valued at over $2 trillion. While on the flip side, you take a look at the global trade and finance market, that right there is predicted to reach up to $5 trillion in value by 2028, according to Mordor Intelligence. So yeah, when you take a look at Zebec, it's pretty much a complete project, right? Focus on the right markets, amazing fundamentals, amazing statistics. It's a no-brainer for me. And ZBCN, as a worst case scenario, going to the price of 5 cents during this run, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Now, my second price target for ZBCN is going to be 7.5 cents. And when people say that, okay, this is impossible and all this, let's take this into consideration. If it were to go to that price, considering current circulating supply, at that point, market cap would be nearly $5.5 billion, which really is peanuts in my opinion in the grand scheme of things. Even XRP has a market cap currently of over $100 billion. Not to mention, back in 2021, Shiba Inu had a market cap of around $40 billion. Dogecoin that year reached over $80 billion. I'm not saying that ZBCN is going to have these record-breaking numbers because I don't think it is. But in my opinion, just even achieving a glimpse of something like the ones I mentioned before, those projects, it doesn't feel too impossible. And even at that point, the hypothetical upside doesn't feel that bad because when you take a look at the price of 7.5 cents, that's nearly an 80x from here. So you got to think about that. This is not a project that has to achieve something too amazing in order to be considered hypothetically pretty good, in my opinion, because after all, its market cap is not that high, right? You take a look at market cap is barely $70 million. I mean, it's around $68 million right now in terms of market cap. This is like, in my opinion, sort of giving me the vibe of like XCN and XDC before they had that massive rally, which I predicted, by the way. But even besides that, it just kind of gives me that vibe. And again, 7.5 cents, I just don't see why not. Now, my next and final price target is, of course, going to be 10 cents when it comes to ZBCN. The reason being is because I think this run could be amazing. There's currently over 600 million crypto owners, which is more than ever before in history, which is, I think, a big, indicator that this run could be amazing. Now, again, this is according to Crypto.com research, but during the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was roughly around 300 million crypto owners. Now there's pretty much double. I think this run could be something special. Also, you take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption. I think this run could be something. However, only time will tell. So when I take all of those factors into consideration, ZBCN reaching the price of 10 cents, I don't see why not. Now, how soon? Usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, the last Bitcoin halving event happened a little bit while ago, I would say, right? It happened back in April of 2024. So if you take that into consideration, 18 months from then is actually around October this year. So that is why I told this video 2025 price targets, because again, I'm more so taking a look at that range, so to speak. Now, is it guaranteed that altcoins as a worst case are going to peak in October this year? No. There's no surefire date in my opinion. This is more so of a benchmark based off history. History isn't always going to repeat itself. However, in my opinion, in some cases, it does tend to rhyme. Granted, it could happen sooner, which would be awesome. However, it could also happen a little bit later. But then, even despite that, I'm still staying patient, still accumulating, because after all, my strategy is dollar cost averaging. So anytime I do an income, I'm acquiring, I'm holding, and I'm just waiting. That's it. I'm not too bothered about what happens to the price next week or in the next 2 days or 5 minutes. I'm not caring about that because I am not a day trader. I'm not using leverage. I'm not swing trading. I'm not doing any of that type of stuff whatsoever. My strategy is literally so simple. It's believing in a project, taking a look at its fundamentals, understanding it, and then just acquiring it anytime an income, holding and just waiting. Literally, that's it. I mean, there's no rocket science. There's no random tricks and tips or whatever. That's not what I'm doing. It's literally so simple. Just taking a look at a project, believing in it, and then, just acquiring it. That's it. And I'm doing that when it comes to ZBCN because, again, at the price of 10 cents during this run, that right there wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And make sure to subscribe if you gained value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.